Recording. Okay. Calling the Ordinance Review Committee to order at 5:03 on March 15th. The participants in this meeting are gathered remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic as a result of an executive order by Governor Baker on March 1st, 2020, March 12th, more than a year ago, allowing us to do so. So present is Omar Gomez, Thomas Peak, Sam Sharon, Kay Collins, Helen Korchik, and Personnel Director Emily Russo. Okay, we're here. We don't have any minutes. There's no public to speak, but just in case. Nope, okay. We don't have any minutes yet. So is there anyone who's going to take minutes today? Sam, is it your turn?
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
Right. Cool.
I'll just grab some paper.
Okay.
Old school.
I can't type that fast.
Okay. There's always a video too if you need a replay to get all those minutes.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to go through the meeting twice. I'll probably start with, we'll do it out of order and start with chapter 7 because we have Emily here with us. Emily's the Director of Personnel, so it's great to have you here because we muddled through these ordinances and we were like, we don't know what goes on in personnel. So we don't have to wonder, we can. So these weren't too long. Did anything come up for people? And start it. We can just start it. And if you didn't have time to read them, they're pretty short. So why don't I give you a minute just to refresh yourself on 7.1, that page. And I'll actually share my screen.
I didn't come up with anything specific, although I did read through the entirety of the Mass state law about the merit increases for police officers, just to familiarize myself with that. And I do have a link to that if anybody needs me to share that in the chat.
Okay. Sure. Sorry, I'm not making anyone sick with this forwarding here.
If it helps, it's on page 79 of the PDF.
Oh, thank you at the top. You're right. Thank you. Are you sick? All right. Although Emily, in looking at these, since was there anything that you saw that's no longer true or relevant to how things are done?
No, I looked through everything today and everything looks pretty on point with everything that's currently going on here. So
okay.
I just realized we don't have a chat. Does anybody need me to email them that language just in case they want to see it?
Is it long? I mean, it's not something you can just read it. So it's like a book or?
Oh no, it's too long to read.
Oh, it's too long. Yeah, sure, you can read it. I didn't know if you just had like a blurb about it or something. Okay, yeah.
No, but I mean, to sum it up, too long don't read.
Yeah.
It's really just about educate, the levels of credit that law enforcement officers get for certain types of education, higher education that goes toward either a law degree or criminal justice or police education. So it's basically just the stages of what kind of credits they get based on what kind of education they pursue and the accreditation of any institutions of higher learning that they attend.
Okay. These are the cleanest, I think, ordinances we've been through. They're pretty just dry and to the point. Nothing jumped out to me as, belonging with the hawkers and junk peddlers. So, no questions for anyone? Okay. We might already be able to, we might release you already, Emily.
Oh my gosh, so quick.
Oh, no, not one question for you.
Okay, well, if anyone thinks of anything, feel free to reach out.
Okay, thanks for
Actually,
coming. Oh,
sorry,
wait.
but sorry.
Good, Sam. No,
Sorry,
no.
everyone. There was some language from like the 1950s that made reference to a specific company that had, or consultant that
Oh.
had put together the classifications.
Right, Griffin, Hagen, and Associates, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
is that,
You know what? I was kind of wondering about that too. I'm not familiar with that, actually.
Which number is that, Sam?
It's
715.
15,
yeah,
Okay.
right above where we're
Okay,
at.
I see, yeah.
and then 716 below it, I think applies only to a period of time in the 1950s. Specifically 1950.
I remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that I sort of noticed in these pages was that
Yeah.
1950 really stood out as just being,
Yeah.
kind of a while ago for this paperwork, but with no amendments and stuff. But I mean, I don't know really what there would be to change.
Well, we put in the new pay scale. We started that 2019.
Right, that was the newer. Right, that was the newer
Yeah.
thing. Right.
Mhm.
That was July 1 of 2019.
So should this then be updated where it?
About 715 and 716.
Yeah.
And
I
also
would
the
imagine.
the reference to the pay plan.
We still have the pay plan with the Part A and the Part B, and all that stuff is accurate. It's just that
Okay.
our most current pay scale was from the Collins Center report,
Okay.
Oh,
and that went into effect July 1, 2019.
So Exhibit B that it references has just been
It's been updated.
updated. Okay.
Yeah. So we have Exhibit A and Exhibit B, and those are like the pay grades and the pay like categories, essentially based on the position and the scale that they would land on.
okay. So, but they both reference now the Collins Center report and not the Griffin, Hagen and Associates?
Yes.
Hmm. Okay.
So do you think that should be updated?
I think so. Because I couldn't even find them on the Google.
Okay. There's a lot of ordinance activity in the 40s and 50s. Okay. Okay. All right then. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll
Yeah,
talk to you later.
thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening.
Bye.
Bye. I guess Mitch couldn't attend this evening, so I had sent him our questions and told him he could just, bring his answers to discuss with us. So I don't have them yet. So does anyone else have anything to just update from our last meeting based on anything we talked about in the last meeting?
I did email everybody as a response to Tom's email,
Okay.
the potential language to add about veterans to our report to the city council.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
I did read through the plastics ordinance again, and I did notice that there is a segment for, in terms of accessibility for straws, that they can be provided upon request.
Mhm.
So I
And that
did,
was a large part of the discussion during that ordinance
Mhm.
creation. Let me get back up to 6:15. We were going to start today at 6:16, right? The second half of the sixes.
right, 6:15.
Right. We
Yeah.
think we went through all
We went through all the
the
individual
fees and
ones.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So 6:16. Well, any questions about?
So
I was
almost
wondering
like-
about this alarm thing because my house has set off alarms. I was wondering if I was going to get charged. So I see how you get one. Nice to get 1 through 3 times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah, yeah. Then you get to pay. Anything come up for anybody in the?
Nothing in particular. I think the only thing that I had a question about, and let me just find it, was the printed materials thing. Because I think most of us know that you're not supposed to leave things on people's property. I'm wondering how much that's enforced.
Where is that?
It's actually up in the fines bit, and I can't remember if we talked about it, but it's the placing unsolicited printed material upon a public or private property.
Yep.
Is subject to
Number-
fine.
It's
Yeah.
number 12,
Yeah, number
page
12.
69.
Yep. And it just reminded me to look at that again because of the newspaper section, because there's always like internet complaints about the newspaper and the plastic bags that are getting put on people's property. I think I was just curious if that ever actually gets enforced.
I don't does very frequently, and I know that Councilor Derby has a lot of thoughts about that.
Did he? I'm curious to know what his thoughts are, because there are things like flyering for community events and things like that, where I know you're not supposed to technically put anything in somebody's mailbox unless you're actually mailing it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
that's
more of a postal
that's-
code
Yeah,
thing.
that's a postal thing. But like, what about like even during campaign season or just
Mhm.
or any kind of community thing? You stick info on people's doors.
It's $50 per violation, and I would think that. I mean, I wonder whether, say, it was campaign signs or something like that. Each sign posted would be $50. It seems like it's maybe I don't know. It's I'm not sure it has anything to do with our charge, but that seems like a pretty steep.
Yeah, well, also, like I was just thinking, with ACON and we passed out, and I volunteered for ACON, and we passed out about availability of meals,
Mhm.
just how, it just seems like a natural way to do outreach to communities. I mean, I can see why that's there, but to have this violation charge there, it's like people
Right.
might call up about groups they don't like, but not complain about groups they like. You know, if they like the material, it's not a problem. If they don't like the material, it's a problem.
Right, and then in terms of distribution and accessibility for people who don't have the internet or maybe don't have access to travel to certain parts of the city to get that information, it does seem
Yeah.
like the
Mhm.
easiest and most direct way of reaching everybody.
That's
Sure.
That's exactly what I was thinking about,
Yeah.
because particularly in light of the food program,
Right,
because
right.
what we found out by what the group found out by flyering was that there were a lot of people that were not aware that, in a pandemic, that free food was
Mhm.
available. And it really is, to me, it is an accessibility issue. And I think probably Tom and Lindsay and Omar, you can back me up. Like I've heard from community members that people struggle to find information about stuff,
Mhm.
about city meetings, about, like, everybody will probably remember the school, when the new school vote was coming up, there were so many people that said, like, oh, I had no idea that this was going to happen, and now it's going to affect my taxes, because they're not people necessarily that that are part of Facebook groups or anything like that. So I would be interested in maybe bringing that as something to consider, maybe changing the language on, because I would say, like, flyering for community events or community support or mutual aid is different than, like, a business soliciting,
Yeah.
unwelcome
A profit.
solicitation by a business for profit, right?
Right.
Right. Because even like Tom, you and I went and distributed things from the public health department, printed.
Yeah. I was kind of just thinking that, or even like there was a ballot question a few years back that I put door hangers up for.
Yeah, well, your fines are coming, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a few years, but I guess you
What-
can never really escape the law. I think,
Yeah.
but you're right. I think that, like, well, that's the other thing is I don't really feel like this is enforced. I mean, when it comes down to it, I don't, and like maybe there's like a specific like onerous activity that they want to like more narrowly define. And then, but I do think that this is something that I kind of agree that this is probably worth looking at, especially because
Yeah.
I can tell it is just not enforced at all right now.
Right.
Well,
And therein lies the danger. I mean, feel like we keep coming back to that point, that that's where things, can
Yeah.
be enforced based on bias, and that's,
Yeah. Like, yeah, people could, not be happy with a certain organization. So if they get
Right.
something from that organization, call and try to get them fined.
right.
Versus another. And I've even seen that during campaign season where people on Facebook are complaining, like, so-and-so left this on my thing. And I've even seen people say they called the police because they
Right.
just
Left
because
the
they
gate
didn't like
open or
that. They
something.
didn't like
Yeah.
that candidate. Yeah, they didn't
Yeah.
like that candidate, so they didn't want that information.
Right.
I mean,
Omar?
I think it should be like just for profit. People shouldn't leave you things there. And I also don't remember again how the free newspapers get around it, which is in a sense just sending us advertising.
Omar?
Right?
I'm trying to think about the reason we have this ordinance, and I agree with you. I think we should review it, and I think we should be more clear, because I think the reason of the ordinance is trying to protect the homeowners of an X or Y group coming every week to leave me stuff at my door, probably just because of that. Just to avoid the one group comes every day or every week to my door leaving propaganda or something like that. I think that's the reason of the ordinance. I'm not saying that is okay. I think we should review it and make it clear, more clear for everybody. But I think that is the reason of this ordinance.
Sure. So maybe a note in that suggestion should include, like, reviewing the frequency that's allowed or setting some sort of limitations there.
I think there's also speech issues that come up.
Mhm.
And, and I wonder, know enough about this stuff, but where you make a distinction between something that's of community interest, whatever that means, versus, you know, any other type, whether there's an issue there.
Right.
That would be
So-
something just to flag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so solicitation for profit is
Yeah.
one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hate speech potentially, and I know that that's a you know, like, I'm sure that there will be people that will object to that based on their definition of hate speech, but I think that the city, I would trust the city council to have some delicacy in handling how to phrase that, but I think that there should be, you know, should be language that that specifies, like, if it's community interest or mutual aid or something like that, then there's laxity in that. Whereas if somebody's like, clearly, like, you know, you all know, like, we all get the solar people that just come all the time
Right.
to our doors. So, you know, if it's a company that's placing materials on somebody's properties specifically for profit, then, you know, I have no issue with continuing to have regulations against that. But in terms of community support, mutual aid, and I think, you know, the pandemic and the things that people have been doing for public health and for, you know, for food awareness, for food insecurity I think is a worthy exception and a good reason to revisit that as an ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, you feel like in 2010 something was happening, right? With like people leaving stuff that first.
Well, I'm
Like-
pretty confident I know exactly what it was those, it was either the Gazette or the Republican was putting out the coupon bags. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you know, the circulars, and they're in these bags. And I think that was actually really what what was, it was weird is that there's no, like, I don't know if if there's somewhere that I'm just not seeing where they actually have like the full body of this
The
ordinance.
language. Yep.
Chapter 8, Section 8.1.
Okay.
Can you repeat that?
Chapter 8, Section 8.1. I can
Okay.
try to get there.
I like
I'm
it.
afraid. Here we go. You can tell me the page. I'll
Section
I'll
8.
Okay, so
120, I'll
we're
just
going to
post-
get to that then.
We'll get to it. It's a
At our
preview.
next point. That might be a
Okay.
better time to sort of, because I feel like what I really need to do is read that section through and really
Yeah.
like bite into like where exactly it's fine and where it isn't. I just haven't gotten to that section yet, so it's hard for me to really comment on it.
Well, I have it if you want me to just briefly read it, because it's pretty short.
Okay.
You know, there's a paragraph that just says all unsolicited printed materials that are distributed onto public and or private property in the city of Easthampton must be placed / attached to a mailbox, placed on a porch, hung on a doorknob, or placed between doors. No such material should be placed in the street, driveway, or elsewhere without permission from the landowner. Fines are outlined in chapter 6, section 615,
So you can put stuff there.
So you can hang
Just not on-
stuff, yeah.
which
You just
seems a
can't
little
throw a
bit.
bunch of start.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So now we're okay. We spent all
Now
that.
we know.
But I forget. I remember we were asking, or Barb brought up a question about like this list here, and was it? And I couldn't remember what it was from my notes. Is this list like not exhaustive of all the non-criminal disposition? Like, was her question like why are not everything here, or is everything here? I can't remember what the discussion was about this list.
I think that was that there are other ordinances which aren't in that list but do have like non-criminal fees associated
Okay.
with them.
Okay.
And wasn't
Alright.
she wondering too, like, do we really have a firm grasp on who is supposed to be enforcing those and the
Yeah.
capacity for those departments to enforce?
Yeah. Yeah, and that when people make an ordinance and they pick a department to enforce it, that they should really include that department in the ordinance creation. Okay. All right, well, if we don't have anything else to talk about chapter 6 or 7, we could start talking about the presentations for the city council. I can share the draft that Tom shared. You guys ready to move on? Okay, I know I put it on my computer. For a second. I
Are
think
we
I
fin-
put it on, go ahead.
Are we finishing chapter 6?
Oh, was there more that you wanted to say? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, let's finish chapter 6. Mhm.
No, it seems like there's a,
No, you're right. It's just that it was just a personal, because I was so, I'd read this ordinance so many times, chapter 621. So I know I'm happy to read it some more. So anyway, yeah, let's talk about, or the urinating and defecating, whichever you wanted to discuss.
I don't know that I want to talk about that.
Okay. Did anyone have any comments about the rest of chapter 6?
I have a question about the straw thing.
Okay.
The ban on the one-use plastic straws, although I'm looking to see where it is now. And I know that you guys just went through this, so.
Share my screen again. The straw, which,
It's 6-21.2.5 on page 76.
okay.
My question, I guess, was, how do customers know whether or not to ask?
Mm.
I mean, it just says that they should be available upon
Mhm.
request, but it doesn't,
Mhm.
I don't know how anyone would know to ask.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I think at the time we assumed that if that was going to be an issue for somebody, then that person would probably make that known.
It just seems like it places all the burden on a person with a disability to find themselves a straw that they probably need. I mean, I don't know that if you guys already heard all this stuff, but just in reading it, I mean, I was thinking of what would I do? If it was something that you should always have a ratio of, a very small amount of single-use straws, and a much larger ratio of whatever other types of straws, and that you should always keep them full. I mean, you don't have a situation where someone asking for a straw is, or maybe even outing themselves as disabled, where they might not want to. I don't know. I was just talking to a friend of mine who has a daughter who has a condition called Rett syndrome. And, she's very much, it was an interesting conversation, I'll say. And, I don't know if there was any input from disabled folks. I wasn't familiar with the process, so I don't.
Yeah.
you guys might have gone through all of this stuff already.
Well, I think that's why that they didn't ban it completely. You know, when that issue was brought up throughout the process.
Yeah,
You're right.
Um,
That's why it's there, because that was
that's
part of
why
the
it's there,
conversation.
yeah.
Yeah, that was part of the conversation with the ordinance committee.
Yeah.
They're concerned about the disabled people, and instead of just ban it completely. So now, if you need one, now the person they should be able to ask for it instead of just the restaurant or any other place to give it to you. Now, instead of give it to you, you should ask for it.
My recent experience at an Easthampton restaurant to go was they asked me if I'd like a straw, actually.
oh, that's nice.
But I mean, that's not a policy. That I was just thinking, 'cause
Right.
I just ordered something and I remember I paused because I almost said yes because I was just like reflex, and I was like, oh no, actually, I don't need one. You know, I thought about it, but
Yeah, my only thing was just, you know, how making sure that people know to ask. What if somebody has a speech related issue,
yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
that affects their, you know, ability to get that across, I guess, unless they write a note or something.
yeah,
I mean, if they had a speech-related issue, then presumably they would either be communicating via note or they'd have someone communicating for them if they're in a restaurant anyway, because otherwise they'd be really struggling to order food.
But
Sure.
but you know what? I mean, I think it's a legit question. And
Yeah.
I think we should reach the Disability Commission
Yeah,
to get advice from them
Yeah.
to see if we can fix this.
yeah.
that's a good
I mean-
idea. We just heard from them, so
I don't have to make special requests for napkins and forks and stuff.
No. But
Yeah.
I think that's what we had the Disability Commission, and I think we should use them.
yeah,
Yeah,
And
in this
yeah.
instance, sure. That would be great.
Yeah, I'm sure that they've gone through this with other communities, and I don't know if it was something as simple as, let's say,
hi.
let's say there was a speech issue, but
Okay.
there was a menu,
Mhm.
and somebody would have the ability to point to something on a menu to
Right,
order, right?
Sure.
If they were out by themselves. So if there is a, you know, language on the menus that just says, if you have a need
Thank you for stopping on time.
a need for a straw, please let us know. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
they, you know, would theoretically be able to indicate that
I mean,
as a request.
it's better than other prohibitions. I mean, if you were to ban them outright, it would be a violation of the
Mhm.
ADA. And
Uh,
so,
I think it would be good. I mean, to be at the spirit of because the problem with someone like offering me the straw is that I almost just said yes and I don't really need a straw. Like I just said
Right.
yes because, so that's going to give out more straws than we want plastic in the environment. But if there could be like a sign or even on the menu or wherever you're ordering that says, you know, we have plastic straws available upon request, just
Right.
so
Just
people
like it-
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like it's let your servers know if you have an allergy or something, you know,
Yeah.
like you need
Mhm.
your order.
And that
Yeah,
has
your-
to be signed in the restaurant too, the allergy.
Right,
protocol.
exactly. So maybe this is like as simple as putting a plaque up near the other utensils that you might pick up or that might get put into,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. But I also really liked Omar's suggestion of having
Yeah.
the commission.
Yeah, disability.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Could we
because
get
those are the
someone,
folks that it would affect. So
do you think, Omar, do you think it's possible for us to get somebody to come to one of the meetings to talk it through with them?
I think so.
Yeah, I actually had been speaking with Angelique, who's our chair of the Disability Commission here in Easthampton. And she was going to look over they were going to look, that was one of the tasks they were going to do in their committee is look over the ordinances. But I mean, I think they'd be happy to come, but I think it'd be a better use of our time, like because they're going to look through it on their own. And then if we like mark questions for them, so when they come, we've got like a bulk of questions.
Yeah.
Or even
Angelique
just call
Baker.
out, like areas where we know, hey, while you're looking through it, just
Yeah.
this might be something you'd be interested in looking at.
Yeah, so I'll
Yeah.
add that to the.
Yeah, I would feel much better having it direct from the source, so to speak, or
Mhm.
feedback direct from the source.
Okay.
I-
Mm,
That was it for me.
that was okay. No. That's it. All right. Cool. Tom, can you share your screen? Do you have the draft you wrote?
Yeah, I can. Sure. 1 second.
Okay. I'm on my little laptop and. Oh,
Oh, I need to be made a co-host.
okay. Let me see. Tom Pink Moore. Make co-host.
Got it.
We're on the agenda for the first meeting in April. We will be on the agenda. First Wednesday in April.
Oh, the first Wednesday in April? I just want to put that in
Mhm.
my calendar.
Yeah.
So that's the 7th, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think so. Let me look.
Okay.
What time are those meetings? What time do they
Six.
start?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Uh-oh, I'm frozen.
Mm-hmm.
I have it.
There you
Oh,
go.
there it is.
Okay. So this is more a format. I know that there's like a bunch of stuff I didn't get in here just because by the time I don't know, I was on vacation last week and I didn't do as much as I thought I was going to do. But I think this is my general idea for how to transmit this information in a way that
Mhm.
straightforward is to just say, and the main things that we can do, I know we're going to periodically update, is just say, as of blah, 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 we've reviewed up to blah, 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 and here's the recommendations that we have. And then I went through and grabbed a couple of them. I know that there's some other things that we had talked about, but I know some of them we had outstanding questions and I didn't want to, these were things that I feel like we all kind of were on the same page. So
Mhm.
yeah, this is sort of the idea. So just first of all, how do people feel about the general format of this?
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
think it's good.
Okay.
Good. Did you want to divide or did you want to categorize things like kind of inclusive, like based, that refer to inclusivity and potential discrimination versus just outdated?
We could. I mean, I think that sometimes they're one and the same, right? I mean, like, so for instance, like the shift towards gender neutral language, like I think a lot of that's just outdated from a time when everyone just assumed that the mayor was always going to be a man.
Right.
But yeah, I don't have a problem sort of splitting it up. This was just the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah. Within those, I just think that given our charge, we definitely want to highlight the things that relate to inclusivity and yeah. So it might be nice just to, here's some things we found that are related to that, and here's just some flat out dated things. Like junk
Right, I
peddlers.
think breaking it down to the way that it is in terms of the sections is helpful though too, in terms
Yes.
of if there are issues that go beyond what come up in discussion with each committee head,
Mhm.
it can
That's
be
true.
addressed more specifically and it's easier to isolate it for each committee.
Mhm.
But then also, I think just a nice blend of both of those things, like where there are
Yeah.
blanket recommendations.
Mhm. Or it'd be interesting just maybe just put it all in there, but color code it.
Yeah, I can restructure this later to
No,
have it be like that if that's what you guys would prefer.
no, I like the same structure, just when we're more just, I guess, in the communication to the committee, like highlighting what we found in regards to inclusivity and discrimination. So we will have what's today's date? The 15th.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking in terms of working on this together and open meeting laws and but we have all the minutes, so that's the cool thing that can just kind of take from the minutes. What are your suggestions around that, Tom, in terms of?
Well, my one thing is I can take the minutes and just populate it, but I do think that before this goes to the council, it probably needs a vote from, like, we need like a final draft with a vote. So
Yeah.
we might need to delay that for one meeting. Like I could go through the minutes and watch old meetings or however we want to do it to get it updated and to be a full thing. But I do think that before we send anything to the full council, we need to vote, because if there's like some people that actually don't agree with a recommendation or whatever, then that's also something we need to know.
Okay.
Are we able to meet again before that meeting, the April meeting?
Yeah, I think so. It's today. Let's look at the calendar.
I mean, that would be, it would need to be dependent too on if we feel like, or Tom, if you feel like it's enough time to throw in the rest from the minutes and everything.
The only challenge that I see is that that we don't have the minutes from the last meeting, and we certainly won't have the minutes from this meeting. If I can get that information, then yeah, I mean, frankly, we didn't really talk about, I think I can probably handle this meeting because there wasn't a whole lot that we
Right.
terribly,
And mine, I will try to send it before the weekend.
Okay. If I have at least a draft of those, then I can come up with a draft for our next meeting.
Okay.
Everything that was mentioned in the minutes, and then I'll send that out. And if anyone sees anything that they feel should be included that I overlooked, because these are just dense meetings and it's totally possible that something got skipped over.
Sure.
We can just add anyone can just come with language to the next meeting, and we'll just add it, or we'll discuss adding it, and whatever we feel is like a full draft we can then send on. And or does that sound good?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to? Mondays work for me now. It seems like Monday's a good day for most people. I just, I didn't notify Natalie at this meeting time, so she didn't know that we were meeting today. But I think Mondays are generally okay for her.
And do we want to aim, just to give ourselves a little time, do we want to aim for presenting at the second meeting in April, which would be the 21st?
That's the 20th. Is this the 20th? Yeah, it's 20th. Sure, if you think we need more time. I mean, we'll just be kind of reviewing more things and adding more things to it.
That's true.
So I feel like we could throw it together. Like
I think we could throw it together. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be everything. I think they just want to know like what's going on here, So we don't have to drill down. Even if someone wanted to put it, or we could even put it into like a slide presentation that's like, But how about we could meet so we could meet April 5th, which is 2 days before the meeting, or
if we meet April 5th, would we be able to have the agenda only be working on the presentation so that we are not adding anything to it? Would that be doable with open meeting stuff?
I think we can, as long as we're on the agenda, Tom and Omar, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as long as our presentation is included in the minutes, I think as long as we're on the agenda, do they have to have it, the presentation in advance?
I meant for our meeting on the 5th.
Oh, for our meeting,
Yeah.
okay.
So if our stated agenda item is just working on the presentation
Oh,
for the
just
city
working on
council
it.
meeting
Yeah, we could do that.
and not
definitely.
adding anything to it, I think that probably would be more effective.
Okay, let's do that. So is April 5th okay? The Monday before that, I'm going to be in Puerto Rico and I really am trying to take a break, but you guys could meet if you want to meet without me. Or
I
April
can
5th, I'll do that.
have all of this done by April 5th.
Yeah, the 5th works for me too.
Okay, let's do April 5th.
What time?
Is 5 o'clock good
6?
for people?
At
6
6?
is good?
Just kidding. I prefer at 6, but if you
Yeah,
guys
No,
want at
5:30
5,
or 6 is better for me because
Okay, do you want to do 5:30 or 6? I'm fine with either, really.
I'm fine with either.
take 6.
Okay,
great.
6. Good. Oh, I wrote in my calendar, Omar. Sorry.
So is that 6 on the 5th?
Yes.
6 on the 5th.
Yeah. Tom, I don't know if this is a good time for it, but if you have the email from me and your screen sharing, do you want to bring up the veteran stuff, or are we going to go through this, all the paragraphs on this email right now?
I think I can just insert the text of that email into this,
Okay.
like in the meantime. You showed it last time and I had no objection.
Yeah, so the only thing I added to it is at the beginning, I mentioned the specific section with the wage theft ordinance as a basis for the change, and then my suggestion at the language at the bottom is any city ordinance or decree that references veterans be updated to include language broadening the state definition to include veterans whose dishonorable or less than honorable discharge status was a result of their sexuality, gender, or gender expression.
Okay, I've got it right here. So, oh man, my computer's.
It's fine.
Yeah, here, I can just take that and drop it right in.
Great.
And I'm just going to do that for now. And
As a placeholder, yeah.
yeah, there's, if we feel the need to, oh, shoot, that got
Okay. What?
okay. Great. But so the other things that I brought up were, yeah, gender neutral language. The thing about registered voters, and well, there's some people who maybe for one or another can't register to vote or haven't, but could still be really valuable on committees. So we should change that to just resident.
Right.
There was the one that, yeah, there's no term length given for members of the Council on Aging, although in practice it's 3 years. So they should probably codify that. What was I going to say here? What even is Chapter 3, Article 5? This is the problem with having me like
That's okay.
ask.
I'll have it in like 2 seconds
Oh,
for you.
penalties.
Penalties, yeah.
Penalties for bicycles.
Oh, yeah.
So really it's section 3.76. So I think what I was going to say there is like
that could be applied inequitably, and that instead of putting a fine, instead connect them with the resources in terms of like Safe Kids,
Right.
something like that. Not, it shouldn't be a punitive response.
yeah.
It should be an educational opportunity. and providing of resources.
376. It's not historically
Mhm.
could lead the utility for any consistent. Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
With information on resources to
such as, and what was the,
Safe Kids, the Safe Kids program.
Was that the one with the helmets that could be provided free of
Yes.
charge?
Correct.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so
Was that monetary fine or momentary fine?
did I say momentary?
It's a moment.
It'll just be a second.
Monetary. Yeah. I just wanted to. Yeah.
We'll give you your money back in a second.
Right.
You guys should, I pity the people who I work with who check my writing. Just, I type really fast, but I
Pity the
make a
fool.
lot of errors. Okay, and then this was the bulk of our conversation last week was I just tried to quickly summarize this, was to say the committee found much of Chapter 5 to be outdated. It is unclear what activity this section seeks to enforce or how reliably it has been enforced outside of Article 3, garage sales. In speaking with City Clerk Barbara LaBombard, the committee came to the conclusion that the city's current garage sale ordinance imposes an administrative burden on the clerk's office, which is not necessarily covered by the small fees. The committee recommends that the council eliminate or rework most of this section.
And I would just when you refer to a chapter, I would put the title of it so people are reading it right away have a reference. Like Chapter 5, junk dealers, hawkers, and peddlers.
Oh, that's right.
Specifically because I just like saying junk dealers,
Junkers,
hawkers,
hawkers,
and
and
peddlers, and sales of secondhand articles.
And yeah, and I would say too, I'm just trying to find it. Hold on a second. The one thing that has the potential of unequal ordinance is the one about minors not being out after dark. I'm just trying to find that one, sorry.
The curfew language.
The curfew language, yeah. Loitering by minors, section 6-8.
Right.
And that's one of the things I had asked Officer Cici about. So hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about the enforcement of that. I'm going to preheat my oven.
Okay. Yes, that's a good one. So yeah, when I get the minutes, I'll make sure to include that one. I'll put a note in right now.
Mhm. And it's section 6-8, loitering by certain minors during certain
Right.
hours.
Certain.
Right. Loaded.
It's so loaded.
Okay, I'm just gonna make that's just shorthand until I can sort of sit down. Are there any other things that I definitely missed? I will go through the minutes, but if there's anything that really jumps out that somebody thought was like a major thing that I definitely can't miss, I can just include a thing to be sure that I.
I don't see anything now, but I'll review my notes and just see what I, drew the most circles around.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom, for taking that on.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right.
I have one thing that just comes to mind is that we had mentioned even structuring, I forget which section it was, but sort of the definitions and almost creating or having the council create new definitions for certain terms, whether it be when you see, I mean, I know we're probably removing things like woman from, the language. It should be more just generalized and non-gendered, but or maybe there was minority might have been one of the words that was used, or yeah, I don't know, just I guess we mentioned the definitions at some point, and I don't know if that's just an extra note or not that would be included in this.
Helen, what were you saying to define, like which words were you saying to define?
So I forget. I would have to like review old
Okay,
minutes
okay.
and everything. But I feel like there was one point where we were having the conversation of, how in some of the sections it will lay out definitions for different terms. And just saying, I think at one point we had said something along the lines for our city.
Oh, I see. Kind of, right. But that's kind of like how we were thinking about to include veterans, like
Right.
like
Right,
we
yes, the veterans.
we're expanding the definitions of some definitions to be more inclusive.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Was if I remember where I kind of remember us landing on that, and maybe I've forgotten something, was this was something that we thought about potentially asking the city solicitor about at some point, like
Expanding on the state definitions of things.
right, and like
Oh,
how
yeah.
Right. That's
how that would work exactly, like where do we have leeway and where are we kind of stuck with something?
That's right. We were looking at the bikes definition and everything too, and the way it mentioned something, and we had quoted
About
the
weight.
definition. Right.
Yeah, and nudity.
Right.
So I
The
think
state definition of nudity.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
This is all just me, like
Yeah.
Okay.
what's going out to the council. I'm just
Tom,
No judgment, Tom.
Tom, if we think of things, can we email you individually?
yes. Yeah, totally. Oh, Lindsay, are you? Oh, there
I'm
you are.
back again.
Back.
Okay. Yeah, it's totally fine to email me individually so long as we're not
Okay.
operating as a group.
Okay. Cool.
And if we can't change the language of some of that stuff because it's connected in some way to state law or something like that, we could have a statement that says, we acknowledge that certain language contained in, has issues. We'd be stated in a much better way, but like some sort of a disclaimer, I guess.
Yeah, that's an idea. Okay.
And I guess that would come up in a situation where the city solicitor's answer regarding the conflict is no.
Right. Yeah. You know what else we could do is we could do a section here where we could say, I don't know, feedback from city officers, and
Yes.
like just give you know just the various folks who have provided feedback to us,
And how helpful it is.
and just sort of note, like, oh, this person looked at this section and said that they did not find anything concerning, or this person looked at the section and noted that they don't actually ever use whatever. I just think that that's value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it
Mhm.
tells the other city councilors too that, like, when you are reviewing all of this, we did our due diligence and they've already been consulted on these sections.
Mhm.
I would just say for organization purposes or structure that, maybe instead of having a section that says feedback from city officers, include the feedback from city officers in the section of the relevant chapters.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to skip around between the
Yeah.
two.
Mhm.
I agree. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I like it.
But I will make sure to bring those things in, and then hopefully we can have something we can vote on
Great.
next time.
Okay, great. Shall we?
Okay.
Can I make the motion that we adjourn for the night?
Second.
All in favor, Helen,
Guys.
Tom,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Kay,
Bye.
Omar? Okay, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good night, everyone.